Hello, hello. Welcome to the second episode of the Creative Brief with Swaraj Singh, where we talk with some of the most inspiring creative developers and designers. And today's guest is someone almost every beginner creative developer has learned from at some point. If you ever try to make a 3D website with Blender models, there's a huge chance that you have watched his video. So please welcome Andrew Woan.
Hey Siraj, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm going to be taking in place of Andrew today, but I'm going to answer to the best of my abilities. I know him pretty well. Any questions that you might have?
Thank you, Andrew, for joining this show. I'm really grateful. So, without wasting any more time, let's start with the very first question. You gave up web development twice before finally sticking with it. What was the emotional difference between those failed attempts and the moments things finally clicked? And what would you say to beginners who are currently in their third I am giving up phase?
That's a great question. I think everyone goes through a lot of periods of self doubt. I definitely had that a lot. Now, when I say I gave up twice, those were like the long differences in between. There were definitely a lot of mini moments where I wanted to give out or like had intense periods of self doubt that I kind of like went through. So I wouldn't consider that giving up phase. But yeah, I definitely had like two notable ones where I didn't touch 3JS or Blender for a few months. I think the difference when things like quote unquote finally clicked, there wasn't really a specific moment other than I just I really needed a career. So I just kind of like sat down and I'm like, okay, I like doing this. I'm just going to do everything the right way, whatever it is. They say teaching is the best way to learn or you should try and fail and expect to fail over and over again. So no matter how brutal it was, I just did something each day. I didn't even look at the clock or think about anything, right? You just focus on one little small thing that you can do each single day. And even if it's a failure, what you learn is how to not do something the wrong way. So that is also not considered wasted time because without that time you spent on there, you never would have realized that those were going to be mistakes until you did the mistake itself. So I think it's less about how many phases of giving up, but how much do you do a little bit each day, even if you fail on it. And once you eventually do that for a really long period, you'll look back and kind of realize that there was like you just like like genuinely surprise yourself how far you've come if you do a little bit of things each day. That's exactly how it worked for me. I just did a little bit of things each day and then somehow I posted my work and, people noticed. So there's really nothing special about me other than I just, failed thousands and thousands of time until I got good. So yeah, that's like a very cliche journey, but I think that definitely applies to a lot of fields and a lot of people in general. Talent is very rare. I think most of it is just like hard, consistent work, every single day or most every single day.
Of course, talent is rare, but hard work and consistency matter even more. And yes, you will fail probably hundreds or even thousands of times, but the people who succeed are the ones who continues even after all those failures. And just keep going a little bit every day. One day you will look back and be surprised at how far you have come. So if you are someone struggling with self-doubt because of failure, always remember this. So let's move to the second question. You came from the background with no creative tech environment, no top university, no internships at the right time. How did that outsider feeling shape the kind of creator you became?
Honestly, I think I made the right choice. Yeah, all my friends were going to Ivy League schools, but I like purposely chose not to because there was like this common advice that was like your college doesn't really matter. What matters is what you make out of your college. And I was just like, yeah, you know what, true. And I didn't want like in the US college is super expensive and I didn't really like look into scholarships or anything like that, which I probably should, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I chose not to go to an Ivy League because I thought, well, maybe I should just like optimize college the way that I wanted for. And that's exactly what I did. I tried a multitude of things in college and I eventually got peer pressured into coding, which is not what I wanted to do originally. I wanted to go into psychology. But anyway, I think, sorry, beyond the point is I think being an outsider to the fields or just like in general of what society expects actually helped me a lot because I didn't follow like rigid rules like, you know, go to a top university, get a traditional job, like even if you're traditionally successful, like rich, right, big house, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of my friends are already there at my age, right? They're buying houses and things like that. So it's not really a bad path, I think. But for me, the fact that it's predictable is what makes it the wrong path for me. I feel like the more predictable my life is, the I guess the more cliche it is, right? Like I know I can just go top university, top job, and then kind of just like coast and kind of just live like that. And that would probably be low stress and I'd be happier than I am currently, or I don't know, maybe I'd be happier. I don't know. But then I would live my life like everyone else. So I think being the outside perspective definitely really helped, becoming the creator that I am today. And I do have, I do the things that I love. And I think it's a different kind of happiness to pursue, I guess, quote unquote, your passion over like the generic finances and things like that. But yeah, I think it's just like trial and error because they say in your 20s you should take risks. And that's kind of like what I'm doing. I'm just taking risks rather than, doing the traditional thing my friends are. But yeah, I think to each their own. Some people find it very anxiety inducing what I do, but other people probably more like the kind of like free random life that I'm doing. But yeah, to each their own for sure. I don't recommend a lot of people take my path. I mean, it's a little bit wild, but I think more and more people in the future will take my path. But at the moment, I feel like a stable job is still probably the best way to go.
At the end of the day, if you are happy with what you do, nothing feels better than that. A stable job can give you security and stability in life, but if you are not enjoying it, then something still feels missing. Sometimes opportunities may be fewer in the field you truly love, but if it makes you happy, it's worth exploring. And lastly, take risks. Your future self will thank you for it. Okay, amazing. Now, moving to the third question. A lot of people in creative development feel like they are not technical enough to be a real developer and not artistic enough to be a real designer. How did you become comfortable living in that middle ground?
Like the labels designer and developer are increasingly becoming outdated. Like in the past, I think we had these labels because specialization was like really important. But like now, I don't really think that specialization is like in a lot of companies. Like designers also do developer work and so on and so forth. Especially now with AI, we're kind of like being a lot more cross domain. So I feel like labels were more of a societal construct for like economic systems that are kind of becoming a little bit outdated now. So I feel like if there's like this mentality that you're not artistic enough to be a real designer or you're not technical enough to be a real developer, I think that is part of like outdated societal conditioning. Because the way I see it, it's like if you want to make a 3D website, then Blender and 3GS aren't really that different at all, right? They're both just tools to create a 3D website. Like if you look at a chef sometimes grows their own garden. They cook their own food, they ferment their own wheat, they prepare their own ingredients, right? They can wash their stuff and then they also plate it and make it look really nice. So the chef does everything from start to end for the food that's on the table, from growing it to plating it. And I see it the same exact way as a website. Like you can plan a website yourself, and then you model the things that you need to model, or design the things that you need to design, and then just finish up the website. Like I just view myself as like a creator or a chef rather than a developer or designer. Like those are just labels for work that you do. But at the end of the day, you're just creating something that someone else will use, whether you're a developer, whether you're a designer. I don't even know those labels like they're just there for like salary rather than like actual limitations. Yeah, just don't let labels define you, and I feel like over time they'll just kind of like a lot of labels today will eventually vanish in a few, in a few years or maybe like 100 years. But yeah, so just view yourself as a creator and don't really think about labels too much.
I love the answer. At the end of the day, you are the creator of your work. So don't limit yourself with labels. Just focus on creating, learning, and doing whatever your project needs. That's the right approach. Okay, such a powerful mindset. Now, on to the fourth question. Cuteness is such a big part of your design style. Panda, paper craft walls, Minecraft like vibes. How did you think having a strong personal aesthetic helps beginners find their style faster? Like, and how can someone discover their style if they still don't know what they truly like?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I definitely have a strong personal aesthetic around like cute things and like sort of beginner friendly sort of things. And there's a reason for that. It's because there's not much beginner friendly content on this. Everything I see is like super advanced or like it's super niche. So I kind of just wanted to make things a little bit more fun by focusing on the cute styles. Now, it's not that I don't find the other stuff really really cool, like all the complex shaders like fire, smoke, particle effects. Like I definitely find those super super cool as well. Don't get me wrong. It's just like there's just that's like really advanced stuff and I don't really want to cover that on my channel yet. So I think staying in this cute, like easy to know style, which I'm trying to appeal to like, teenagers and young adults more often so. Um, I think it helps people find like, oh, they can get into it. And then if they don't really like the style, well, then they can apply it to whatever style they kind of like over time. I think I think developing a style is all just about just like trial and error, pretty much just like anything else. And one easy way to do that is like think about the mood or the emotions that you want to convey in other people, and that will kind of like I guess explain the style that you want. So if you want to be like an illustrator, for example, and you want to make people feel like warm or something, then maybe you'd look at a bunch of like cute styles or illustration styles or something. If you want to make like a more cool or like wow factor, then maybe you want to look in like the more technology, particles, data visualization, some really cool stuff over there. So I think just think about the emotion that you want to convey, and that'll probably drive the style that you eventually end up focusing on. But definitely don't limit yourself. Like from time to time, switch between styles. And I think that is something that I try to do. That way I don't really burn out and I always quote unquote learn new things because each style in itself is kind of like a completely new thing. Well, sorry, not completely new, but like is slightly new in some ways. And then you can like transfer over concepts, bridge concepts, combine concepts, and so on and so forth. So even if you have a dominant style, definitely don't hesitate to dabble in other styles occasionally just for fun and just for learning.
I hear this a lot. I think people should create in a style that convey the feeling they want to express. And the beginners, the most important thing is believing that they can actually do it. Even as a teacher, I always try to help students build their confidence first. And finally, the last question, Andrew. If you could go back and tell 2020 bored Andrew one thing before starting creative development, what would it be?
Is a fantastic question. Now, there is a lot I would tell my younger self, but if I had to do one thing, I'd say don't worry about good practices. And a lot of jobs, even like you're going to rush things and have like deadlines, and you're going to do bad practices anyway. So don't really care about bad practices. I feel like caring about good practices too much might enable perfectionism and like over optimization and kind of like suck out the joy of what creativity and what this creative field is supposed to be about, which is creating really, really cool things and having fun while doing it. So, another thing I'll say about why you shouldn't really care about good practices is because you can always unlearn them. It's not like piano where if you like muscle memory a really wrong piano technique, it takes a really long time to unlearn it, or it's a lot harder to unlearn. Whereas in code or even art, it's like if you use like an array modifier in Blender and then you find a GeoNode setup that does what the array does, but even better and quicker than you're doing, well, then you just swap over to the new method and you never go back, right? That's not the case with like muscle memory, but with Blender stuff, that is. Same with coding. It's like if your coding architecture is really bad, and then you look at a top developer with better coding architecture, well, then you just like switch, and it's not like you'll just like go back to your bad old coding practice, right? So it's not like unlike other fields, like this is so lax in unlearning bad practices. Like obviously there's fields like cybersecurity where you probably should, value good practices, but like here it's mainly about having fun and like creating cool things. And as long as it's not like lagging or anything, then I feel like yeah, just like have fun and focus on doing a little bit and learning a little bit each day rather than, whether this is the right tutorial, whether this is the right video, whether this is the right what method, as long as you get something done. And I think as you get more advanced, as you get, yeah, just in general, as you get more advanced and more knowledge in the field, you'll see a ton of people that you look up to have really, really bad practices themselves. And it's like, it's just a normal part of it because some people want to value their time and their happiness over code quality. Some people want to value their code quality. So I think it just really, really depends. And I would just tell Andrew, like, really stop stressing about the good practices. You're not even going to follow all the good practices now. And you should just save that stress for being happy instead. And even today, I still teach like quote unquote bad practices on my channel, not intentionally. It's just like, just to save time and just, it's more about showing impact and having fun rather than showing the perfect code because I feel like I would leave a lot of viewers and they would just kind of like get bored by the end of it if I spent like another hour on like coding architecture and things like that. So, of course, that's to each their own. Yeah, I feel like I wasted too much time on the best video or the best course or the best practice rather than just learning something new each day. And that's kind of what I would tell my younger bored self.
That's probably the best answer. I do say perfection will come later, so don't stress too much about making the perfect website. This field is about having fun and creating cool experiences. Don't overthink quality all the time. Things can always be improved later. And for everyone watching, keep learning every single day. Even a little progress matter because learning is what keeps moving you forward. So thank you so much, Andrew, for coming to this show.
Yeah, great questions. Thanks so much for having me. Take care and bye.
And for everyone watching, I think the biggest lesson from this episode is that failure is part of success. Without failure, you can't grow into the person you want to become. Do work that genuinely makes you happy. You are a creator, so create what feels right to you. And most importantly, don't try to be perfect all the time. Have fun with the process because that's why most of us entered this field in the first place. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode with another amazing guest. Bye.